I know you've been waiting for this one. We all have, and it may as well be our first featured match, to be honest with you, because it is a heavy, heavy hitter. RAISY, k1llsen, head-to-head in a few minutes' time. Welcome back to our latest week of Quake Pro League. Joined by ZSX, my name's Ketchup. This is gonna be a good one, and I think, Dan, whose head is definitely on fire, I only just noticed it now, we're all gonna want to just sit and watch this.
You've only just
enjoy the
noticed
show.
it. Watch the flames come out my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I look at the camera. I am the other thing. Anyway,
well, yeah, Andrea and PG are just memeing me every cast. I swear to God.
They had umbrellas last week.
We've got a former champion and someone that's been in a number of finals now, going head to head. Two people you put right up there at the favourites to win QuakeCon, and they've both been on pretty good form as well. And you know, what can you say about these two? That hasn't been said before. k1llsen just unbelievable when he finds form. Obviously gone through some personal issues with his eye, but looking as good as he's looked in a while. And RAISY finding ways to improve, but always finding unique tricks to entertain us with as he does it.
It's a combination, and it's one of those things that we kind of had Dramis just play, who's recovered from some health issues, and k1llsen, who has been in a similar boat, different problem, of course, but k1llsen is one of those players that obviously he has gone through a fair few of them right now, and has been able to get back up onto form and still play out of his mind. And I don't know how they do it. I really don't. It is incredibly inspiring. And then you look at a player like RAISY, who, Quake Champions has been his realm. This is the game that has made him who he is in esports. Like, it's such a rising star, and has been for the past 4 years. And now sitting absolutely in the high end of that tier list as one of the best players, not only in Pro League, but Quake Champions history. So, Clash of Titans is an understatement.
I think we're waiting for RAISY to take that first victory, but there's always just Rafa acting as a blocker. Otherwise, if Rafa didn't exist, he would have walked away with a number of land victories at this point, just showing how powerful Rafa is. I think, if I'm honest with k1llsen, he always feels like he plays his best Quake, but he's a bit of an underdog. When people think he's not going in looking in his best form, or there's other players that have just been shining a light, that's when k1llsen really comes to kind of reset the balance, if you will. So coming off his injuries, again, another time where he's just proving doubters wrong. I think that's where he's a bit of a pantomime villain in that aspect, where he comes to the fore where people don't really expect it.
Well, let's quickly bring up the picks and bans. We'll see what the journey of this series is going to be. Deep Embrace as our first destination, Ruins of Sarnath after that, then Molten Falls. We can see the Slash picked in by k1llsen on that final map. Clutch removed again at the final stage. Scale Bearer taken away, and it's Deep Embrace. So guess what? No Doom here.
Yeah, not unusual. Doom and Clutch, the RAISY staples, both banned out. Again, interesting to see RAISY not pick the Clutch up earlier. Either way, we start on Deep. Once again, favorite pick of the day, Strog and Ranger. The meta picks there. Keel not picked up. Moving on to Ruins, k1llsen instantly takes the Nyx. We don't see a lot of Nyx, but k1llsen is one of the few players that really does hold a candle to Nyx, and I love to watch him play her. And if he starts connecting with his rail, he can snowball so heavily. But Anarchy is actually a good pick against Nyx because you can keep the tempo high, you can play fast, and you've got the injector boost as well. So it's a really nice counter from RAISY in that aspect. And then lastly, Molten, we have Slash, again, somebody we never see anymore up against the Sorlag. So that will be interesting.
And when we do see Slash, it just so happens to be on Molten Falls. Anyone that's able to just build up as much speed as she can. It's going to be important, seeing as RAISY has the Sorlag as well, a champion that we have seen him use a lot. Not just in, Pro League, but you see RAISY tend to use this champion even outside. If he's just doing duels and there's a map that Sorlag can work, it's not uncommon to see him practicing this champion. She fits, especially the map pool that we have right now, incredibly well. Rather multi-purpose, if you will. But this first map, that Deep Embrace, we know it's gonna be a brawl. I think the Ranger, we see Ranger a lot, obviously, because the orb is fantastic for those items that normally people try and kind of cement themselves on. But RAISY, if there's one thing that he has, I think, for as long as we've been seeing him play Quake Champions, his management of the opponent's spawn has been one of his greatest areas, in my opinion. And Deep Embrace is, I think, of all maps, this is the map where spawn control is the most devastating.
Yeah, no, I agree. k1llsen, though, I have to say, is just as good as that as well. It's really going to come down to how much is k1llsen hitting today. He is somebody, though, I have to say, obviously, being the pedigree he is, has a plan B. If he isn't connected with his rail, he doesn't rely solely on it as some other players do. It's an amazing utility that I know opens his game up, but if it's not connecting, he always has an alternative. It's just an extension of his skill. RAISY, though, obviously sitting down in 6, not been his best season or stage, should I say, for many, many reasons. Often we see him up in first by a commanding place. So he's somebody that actually has to now show us what he's made of moving into the finals, because normally he goes in with his head held high, absolutely taking this league to the cleaners, but it's not been the same in recent stages as the league gets stronger, and he hasn't progressed to the same degree as others. But k1llsen, as we said, restoring the balance of how good he is. He's come out, though, it is 5-1, but a lot of those victories have been very close. Once again, not as commanding as we've seen him in previous stages. So this is going to be a really interesting one, and I mean, there's always a bit of tension between RAISY and k1llsen at the best of times. There is some personal, beef on the line as well.
That adds a rather significant dynamic to things, doesn't it? Especially in a 1v1 game. If you have players that have history in some capacity, you take a 1v1 game and then you add it a million levels above, because you never want. If only one of you can lose, no one wants to be the loser of something. But then when that is a thing, that loss hurts a lot more. But at the same time, the win feels a lot better. So really the duality of man, I suppose. It's one extreme or the other. Both players readying up, so we'll be loading into Deep Embrace pretty much as soon as. If any of the series today had a strong chance of being 2-1, this is one of them.
Yeah, I'm really, really interested to see both Slash, but mainly Map 2. Map 2 feels a little bit of a reminiscent of, 2017 duel right here, or where Anarchy and Nyx were the true meta picks. Anarchy's been a lot more obviously favoured recently, but Nyx barely ever see her, and she's so entertaining to watch. So that's going to be a very interesting encounter. And then obviously Slash against Sorlag, complete clash of stacks, complete clash of styles to some degree. But k1llsen is somebody that can make the Slash work, and Rune's perhaps the best map for her.
Well, we're loading into our first map as we speak, and you just know it's going to be a violent map. It's going to be exceptionally ferocious because of how both these players play, how little they try and allow the other player to have. And this is a map of denial, you spawn and it's still my turn. I get to really do what I want if I've got great control. We both hit great rails, although k1llsen, the man with the rail, we've seen magic happen. I think this is going to be a damn fine first map, Dan.
Yeah, it's just a shame there's no predictions for the Twitch trolls to go ham on today. I don't know. I hope it's a 2-1 either way. I expect it to be a 2-1 either way. k1llsen comes out swinging already with the rail to his hand, and it's taken up both major items as RAISY let them go for free. k1llsen's like, okay, fine, whatever.
A lot of, I think, just angle denial from RAISY so far, which, to give him his credit, is intelligent play. You know you don't have the items. You know you're against k1llsen, for crying out loud, who will make a mountain out of a molehill if an opportunity arises. And a big push. How does RAISY slip his way out of this one? Gets that information, looks to escape. The missed rail might allow him upwards, at least one rail in return. Oof! Bit of a strange start here. Nope. Shutting down the armor at the very least.
Yeah, and k1llsen does it very well. He controls the lights, and that's what the best players do. They control the lights as much as the main items, as you say, denying the item, playing nice and slow, respecting RAISY. I'm not entirely sure if RAISY fell off the platform for the heavy before, but either way, gets the item away. And k1llsen's had all the major items at this point, but RAISY restoring the balance by hitting consecutive rails. They're on even stacks now, so all that work from k1llsen to get control doesn't really matter. But he's got position, and this is what k1llsen loves to do. Stays on the high ground, uses his audio cues, and pounces on opponents.
RAISY understanding that, no doubt, better than anyone. So he keeps the information minimal. Creates a rail. But as k1llsen keeps that high ground, I take one, you take one. We both have timing. And I think we're setting up for the next 30 seconds. Now that rocket knocking k1llsen slightly off course. Not the be-all end-all as RAISY has high ground himself. We trade a light for a light now. And as Mega's going to be the next objective, how does k1llsen get there? The caution that we're seeing here so far.
Oh, critical rail there from RAISY. Pika comes through, just more information than anything. k1llsen, can he get up here, take another rail? RAISY putting up significant pressure from down below, using the speed to get around the map, but k1llsen using his audio cues really well. Hasn't connected with as many rails as he would like, but as we said in the intro, it doesn't really matter. If he's not connecting, he'll just back off and play slower. RAISY jumping on, going super aggressive here, just to some sort of damage. He's got k1llsen down below, but RAISY connects. They somehow come out with k1llsen getting the first frag as he scuttles his way across to try and pressure this next major pickup. RAISY gets bounced off. k1llsen hits 2 rails. Can he hit a third? No, he just hits himself.
Okay. We'll call that one a happy accident, and that rail off spawn. Putting RAISY already in a not so good position. Seeing as there's a big gap between the two of them, looking for the super shotgun, but again, k1llsen looking to finish the job. Can he do it again? RAISY has done, I gotta say, an impressive job of getting back to full stack. Oh, narrowly misses the rail. RAISY has been a slippery boy so far. Barely anything. A nice orb, though. That was a sneaky maneuver. And that gives him a 3-0.
Like how he did that a few seconds before the pickup as well. I think a lot of people might have waited just before the pickup, but did it early. Caught RAISY off guard in that respect, and RAISY's really struggling. k1llsen's got a good lockdown on the items and putting good pressure on as well. You can see what RAISY's trying to do, but the execution at this point is just not there, which is a bit unusual for RAISY.
Looking for more.
Continuing to push on the advances, but RAISY gets the frag. He turns it around with the super shotgun. And it's just before the next heavy.
That must have been frames before k1llsen was able to get a rocket on the ground. I think k1llsen at the very least would be looking for a trade in that scenario, but here comes the kamikaze out of nowhere. That gives RAISY a chance to bring this one back, but he cannot LG k1llsen in the 1v1. k1llsen secures a frag right as Mega spawns, but there does continue to be that delay between the two. k1llsen hasn't got a rail yet, I think being the key word. RAISY wants this item and he wants it now. He's getting plenty of tri-bolt damage, but I think k1llsen, he's going to have to concede this. Caught by the tri-bolt on the escape, and that is going to be the green light for RAISY to go all guns blazing. How long can k1llsen survive and how much damage can he get before he inevitably goes down, it seems? Aye!
I mean, k1llsen survived for so long, but it doesn't really matter as RAISY now gets the light and should get... So they even get the light. k1llsen gets bounced off at 2 rails back to back. He ties it up.
RAISY playing from behind for a lot of this map, and I think out of nowhere, just like that, we are even Stevens on the scoreline. k1llsen takes the heavy, but the fight's not over. Looks for the close range, and it will be the starting shotgun. I mean, you can see how prepared he is for these fights. The weapon choice alone, I think, gives us enough information, but there's the LG. RAISY can't quite trade it out. k1llsen picks up yet another Mega. But rocket launcher side, RAISY gets real good damage, but the defensive rocket into rail, the 2-piece. This German is out of his mind right now.
Yeah, extending the lead is so powerful at the stage of the game. Unreturned damage here as RAISY comes barreling on through. He will get the frag, and he actually doesn't take any damage for it, so that was as good as it could have been. Picked up the item as well, and here he comes. Pika doesn't really connect, but he does a little bit of damage. He knows he can get this Mega, so k1llsen gets out of dodge quickly. Here's RAISY coming, does great damage somehow up on the high ground. Hasn't got a lot to work with except the shotgun, but RAISY's more than prepared with that, with a shotgun of his own, and a bigger one at that.
Now k1llsen as he spawns. This map does not give you much time to plan your next move, but at least able to get some weaponry together. That rail definitely hurts though, because he hasn't got one of his own. He can't return fire. He has to play the game of evasiveness. Unfortunately, right into the belly of the beast. It will be RAISY securing another frag, tying the knot again, and he secures the Mega. Heavy, next objective. Perfect read from RAISY, and he had the weapon out a million years ago.
And now RAISY seems to have warmed up. How is k1llsen going to respond to this? He doesn't feel like he's had a rail all game long. That's a big change he needs to get, as RAISY now using the strong, setting the tempo. He's engaging k1llsen as he wants to in the mid-range. somehow just comes out on top with 3 HP, does restack. He's got some lights to work with and some health bubbles in the area, understanding the limits of his gameplay. k1llsen, he needs a reset. He's getting bullied at this point. There we go. Needs to start with the rail.
Using the actual ability trade-off. Oh, a couple of directs that narrowly missed their mark. Tri-bolt as good as it's going to get. Nice positional advantage there from k1llsen, and a heavy to boot. Things just keep getting better and better, but the question is, can he secure this fight? Because he can't hit RAISY at all. Hey, there's that rail. Still railable, 10 HP left. RAISY has to try and get damage, but at the same time, give away not a single ounce of his hitbox. 2 rails that miss. Oh, and they baited out!
Oh my word, so
How
close.
is he surviving? Aye.
But there we go. k1llsen finally gets a rail, and look what happens. He's back in the game. He connects. He's extremely low. RAISY knows it. That's why he's pushing on in. He misses the easy rail of his own, though. k1llsen's still stuck with nothing to work with. RAISY knows it. It's how does he catch the opponent? The orb comes out. He gets across, and now he's at a decent fighting stack. So RAISY will reset. He's got position, uses that to scout out his opponent, and then drops on him. He's got a machine gun, but he doesn't know how stacked he is, and he gets pinned. Big mistake from the Maestro man.
It's now going to go 9-9. Looks like both of these players in this map so far evenly matched, but we have less than 2 minutes on the clock for there to be our first map winner. The Tri-bolt already catching RAISY around the corner. Not going to be the end of the world, only a little bit of damage, but information can be the aim of the game, especially seeing as RAISY's looking to get that opening rail. But the carefulness, the caution. Neither player wants to give up their location right now. Oh, he hears it. Locked and loaded. Is RAISY going to deny this? I think he's pushing forward to just... if he takes damage, he'll just take the light later down the line. And now Heavy goes into the hands. They trade items completely. Good read from k1llsen. Goes up the jump pad, but decides not to follow through all the way. Close range rail. A little bit of extra damage with the orb, but it's not going to be enough. 60 seconds on the clock, and RAISY with the lead.
Items are tight, so k1llsen's got at least one, but he's going to push on in for the heavy here. He's coming in with just a machine gun. RAISY's too stacked, though. He didn't need to force the issue there and then, and that might have cost him the game, is now he has to pick up 2 frags in the next 45 seconds.
He's got to get some weapons, too. This is all going to take time that k1llsen does not have, and he is just getting absolutely pelted by the Hyper Blasters. I have never seen Pika do that much damage on its own before. That has to be a first for me, and I think that frag, that's going to be the final nail in that map's coffin, I think. RAISY should be taking map 1.
He will be indeed, and what a close game it was. So back and forth. Lovely to see the clash in strategy. I have to say, k1llsen, his rail was not as on and as premium as one would expect it, but as we said, he had adjusted. He played nice and slow, and it's always great to see the strategical games between 2 great players, and this was another one of those. So sets us up nicely catch up for map 2 and 3, particularly now, as we said, map 2, the Anarchy against the Nyx.
You can almost guarantee that it's going to be a totally different exchange. RAISY, impressive amount of damage. The funny thing is, when it comes to control, it was actually k1llsen that held on to more of the items. I just think in those closing moments, I don't want to say the pressure got to him, because I know k1llsen's the kind of player that does not. He rises above all of it. But there were some risks, right? In the heat of the moment, some risks were taken, and RAISY just punished it.
Yeah, it was a big mistake to go aggressive up on the heavy there. Not entirely sure if he thought RAISY was lower, or maybe misheard an audio cue, but it was the wrong decision. You can see here there were some good opening engagements from k1llsen, but then a big turning point there where RAISY somehow gets the frag with the super shotgun. But it was back and forth the entire map. k1llsen wasn't able to establish himself up on the high ground as he would against other players. RAISY did a great job of that, but the conversions from RAISY were just generally cleaner. When he saw an opportunity, he got a frag. You know, the last 2 or 3 frags we've seen in these highlight reel alone, pretty much all untouched and unreturned damage. So really nicely played from RAISY.
But we're going to go from, I mean, the same realm, I guess, for the lore fans out there, but an entirely different style of map. We have Ruins of Sarnath up next, and it's kind of like you pointed out. It's this Anarchy versus Nyx, but what excites me the most is it's k1llsen's Nyx. It has to be the strongest Nyx in the business.
Yeah, him or base. I think they both play spectacular nixes. Obviously, Rafa's going to be thrown into the ring no matter what champion you're talking about there. But a big part of his Nyx play is often his rail. And obviously that was not up to par in this particular map. So let's see if he can do it. He's going against Anarchy as well, so it's even more important to connect with that damage. He still will restore the balance in terms of strategical play, and he's somebody that loves to use the Nyx aggressively. It's going to be interesting to see how he does that against an Anarchy and how RAISY adjusts to that. And this is where the mind games come into it. It's going to be incredibly back and forth to see them both adjusting to each other's playstyle. And it's unlikely RAISY would have played against the Nyx of a k1llsen level caliber for a while. So again, it's going to be a little bit of a reset on how to approach that type of play.
An element of RAISY that I've always enjoyed is his management of the opponent's just general utility, playing the game of Quake champions. I've said this about him before because I think it's incredibly prominent, and it still is. You're going up against Nyx. Major part of fighting Nyx is managing her cooldowns, understanding when she does and doesn't have Ghost Walk situations, you might be able to force it out, whatever the case may be. And it's an extra layer that sometimes goes a little bit under the radar. RAISY's not one of those players, because Quake Champions was his breakout game. He went into this game fully playing it like its own experience. Quake is there, but there's this entirely new dynamic of matchups and how your opponent uses these champions, favorite champions, all that extra stuff. So when we go on this kind of map, you're going up against k1llsen, he's got Nyx. There's this massive extra dynamic that RAISY is so good at being able to get his head around. So I think k1llsen still needs to be very careful here.
Yeah, it's a mindset thing, as you say. RAISY's somebody that conceptually thinks about the game in a different level to other players. I mean, he had more hours in Quake Live than probably some of the pros did, so it's not like he was unadept at Quake before Quake Champions, but you're right. He's just somebody that studies the game. He's a Quake intellectual at that level, and so it makes him more responsive to, as you say, these champions and their abilities.
Now we can see things from k1llsen's point of view. The caution already apparent, and prioritizing items too. Heavy first, rail later. If you take the rail and give away your position and you're trying to get heavy, that could just give RAISY more information than you want. So k1llsen's going to err on the side of extreme caution so far. No abilities have been used. That rail is a good start.
And he instantly slows the pace. All about the information, making sure he knows exactly where RAISY is and what he's doing. And if he doesn't know, he'll work out a way to find that out. Here's the teleporter, knows roughly where RAISY's going to be going with the items at the same time. Wants to make a move to try and do some damage. RAISY hears it, tries to cut him off before, but takes a big rocket in response as k1llsen works his way across with the Ghost Walk. Still will have enough confidence to try and push one out soon, especially if he connects with that rail. Tries to bait him down, knows that the heavy wouldn't be there, so maybe hoping RAISY would have gone that way, but doesn't, and now has to wait it out.
Ooh, some nice rockets coming out from k1llsen. Oh, and he gets another one. I guess small little bonuses for RAISY. k1llsen did use his Ghost Walk there, but k1llsen able to find that damage. If RAISY survived that, he would have picked up the heavy. But we've gone right back into the caution. But that rail opens up more possibilities for k1llsen. Enough that maybe he can start to think about this Mega. RAISY's going to be a lot weaker than he was originally. Get yourself up to nice and healthy. Mega has been taken, but we know k1llsen likely managing the fact that, look, RAISY, he's not going to have any armor. And if he does pick any up, it's going to be very, very little. If we can keep this strong rail game in play, which k1llsen's had so far. This absolute defensive angles. And he has just fortified himself on heavy so far. That missed rail is going to make things a bit more difficult. But at least for now, RAISY again is not looking to push. They've kind of taken control of each item so far.
Nice.
That's all it took.
Yeah, he instantly made the decision to push the Mega as soon as he heard RAISY out of position for it. But as you said, he's just playing around these items so carefully, not giving RAISY any sort of ins, just receiving that rail now. No means he tries to work another position to bait RAISY out, but RAISY's not falling for it, just working out these lights at this point, sticking to the outside of the map. But here he comes, going aggressive. He knows he hit the rail before, he knows the timing as well. He's just a little bit late. and k1llsen punishes him for that. RAISY not doing anywhere near enough damage, thinking he had the upper hand, and here we go, k1llsen's got both major items.
Ooh, and that is always a rail that no one likes to take. You're going towards that light armor near teleporter, and one of the easiest times to set it up if the opponent's ready for it, because going in a straight line, doesn't matter how fast you are. And now k1llsen, I feel like this entire map has been just down near heavy with the occasional rail. Like, that has been this map so far, and how does RAISY break into that? If he keeps getting hit by these shots, it's going to repeat. k1llsen taking this time again to force his way towards Mega. The control. RAISY, he knows he has time to make something happen, but k1llsen is making it so difficult for him so far.
Yeah, absolutely no slip-ups from k1llsen whatsoever. Completely risk-free strategy here. Holding on the walk key as much as he can to get the audio cues in his favor, and he's just connecting with so many rails at this point relative to last game. RAISY's struggling, but he can't push because every one of these encounters he's taking unreturned damage, and so he's on the back foot.
Now this is going to be somewhat of a twist of fate. RAISY does manage to secure an item at long last, but the rocket from k1llsen, that was one of the best predicted rockets that we've seen all day.
The other big
Stopping
factor of this
RAISY
game
tracks.
we're seeing is that k1llsen is holding on to this Ghost Walk, so it's showing ultimate respect to RAISY. Against other opponents, we often see him use it aggressively, as he is doing here. He knows the exact timing, so it's perfectly used ability, and there we go. RAISY completely unexpecting that. And for me, that's a little bit of an inexperience playing against Nyx for a while, because you know what the item is. k1llsen's been rotating it. You expect him to show face on that item, and when he's not, something's up. He should be looking for that Ghost Walk, but perfectly well played by k1llsen.
You almost get stuck in that rhythm where this entire map has been k1llsen playing defensively, and I can only assume that RAISY, you just get stuck in that rhythm, right? You get almost a bit too comfortable of the pattern that's being followed, because there is very much a pattern going on, but it's because k1llsen's just doing such an amazing job of denying everything through this rail. And there's the Ghost Walk. RAISY, what's it going to be here? k1llsen uses this as a chance to disengage. It's a risk, and a risk that he deems not worth taking.
No, but it's actually a little bit of a slip-up now, because he has to play passive for the 30 seconds. He will lose out on map control. He gives up the item for free. He's also now not confident to push on out. He has to play the vials, and you can see RAISY trying to push his advantage. He knows there's no Ghost Walk up for at least another 10-15 seconds, which it isn't, so he wants to make this count. But k1llsen taking the perfect defensive position of rails, and he's bought himself enough time to get onto the item at least, and maybe even to get a frag at this rate.
This could very well be a green light of RAISY. Try and reposition himself, get some kind of rail. k1llsen. Oh! The second we saw somewhat of an angle there, I got very nervous, but he's still alive. And if he can drag this out as much as he can, and there is the k1llsen that we know. He sits in the center of the map, he sticks his ear to the ground, and he listens.
And that's what he was not able to do last map, because RAISY was on top of him, pressuring him. And this time, he's just not been able to, because k1llsen's rail has been connecting. And that's been the deciding factor. Ooh! But there we go. He's back in the game. 3 minutes to go. Plenty of time for a comeback.
You totally understand that nod of approval from k1llsen. He goes down that hallway because it's all he can do to survive. He knows it's going to be a tight shot anyway. And when RAISY hits it, it's a, yeah, fair enough. You got me there.
RAISY just now needs to cycle the items. He has to guess right, and he has guessed right. To catch k1llsen in the stairwell. What map awareness from RAISY. Got so much time before the next major item. He's just going to circle these lights to take away all resources from k1llsen. And now we're on the RAISY train.
You can see why k1llsen was being oh so careful at the very beginning. This LG keeps pushing him. The aggressive push-in and the rail to finish. Let's go, k1llsen. That was delicious.
Oh, that was a cacophony of errors from RAISY. Pinned on the jump pad that actually knocks k1llsen into his path. But hey-ho, k1llsen fans are not going to care one bit.
And just like that, RAISY was so close to tying things up, and now the high ground continues. k1llsen doesn't fight for this heavy. RAISY does pick it up, and there is still time, as a wise man once said, but not much. Oh, that direct. Watch out. Here he comes. Looking for more. RAISY has to play the game of retreat. Does not go through the teleporter. Far too obvious and a respectful choice. k1llsen still has RAISY on the edge of a string. What's it going to be? Trying so hard, but again, the audio!
Nice.
Anarchy is a noisy boy!
It's at that point in the game, though, Ketchup, where RAISY has to make that risky play. He can't afford to give away that item. And k1llsen knows it. He's just now playing around the desperation that we see from RAISY. He definitely had a comeback in his hands, but k1llsen, he postured. He had to play aggressive to shut down that aggression from RAISY, and it worked. Full credit to k1llsen to have the balls to be able to make that play happen, and we're going into a decider.
I am going to pretend to be shocked, Dan. We knew this was going to be an absolute smash of a match, and it is. k1llsen continuing to play defensive now. Might get one bonus frag for the highlight reel, perhaps, but this is done. The absolute clash of styles. Denial was the aim of the game for the vast majority of it, and then k1llsen snuffing out the potential of a comeback before it even started. Catching RAISY off guard that much. RAISY is not the kind of player that can get ambushed that often, but k1llsen finds a way. And I think that is why he has, in my opinion, the strongest Nyx out there.
Yeah, I agree. And he found his rail, and that makes him incredibly scary. And as I said, that hitting those rails and that unreturned damage gave him free license to play the center of the map, which is what he wants to do. He then just uses the audio cues, tracks you down, and makes your life a misery. And RAISY, he did an extremely good job not to give away more frags. k1llsen was actually respectful in not pushing his advantage in that mid game and just holding fast, trying to force the mistakes out of RAISY that just didn't come. The turnaround was there at 3-0, but it just wasn't enough as k1llsen made that right move over by the jump pad to stop RAISY's aggression, and that big play won in the game.
k1llsen almost did as much damage with the rail as RAISY did in general. And it just, I'm not surprised, because when you just look at how this map went down, so much of these highlight frags in the replay are going to be down in the bottom area or near one of the items. And this was one of the turning points for me of how much control k1llsen had over RAISY. It was not just owning the items. Yeah, that's not of approval we were talking about. That is not an easy shot. But man, that was a strong showing there from k1llsen. You can see though with how any opportunity RAISY has to punish a mistake or to land a shot that most players would not be able to land.
What a rail.
Is why k1llsen had to play so respectfully.
What a rail. But yeah, no, to your point about the rail damage stats, it just shows how well RAISY was also playing on the defense not to give away more frags. So again, this is just Quake at the highest level. The patience and awareness from both these players from start to finish was incredible. That would be a big victory from k1llsen after map 1.
But it does mean that we are going into a rather different exchange on our final map, Molten Falls, where we do get to see a rare sighting of Slash. Slash is going to get picked by k1llsen. We can't forget how good k1llsen's Slash has been historically. Like, there's a time when you're talking about players that had some of the most impressive Slash out there. k1llsen was one of those players. Back when Blood Covenant was in the map rotation, it was a common pick for him, and the amount of dominance he could display, like, it would look very similar to a Tox Slash sometimes.
You're right, it is scary, but he's also going up against a very scared champion in the Sorlag. You know, you meet the lizard in a doorway and you're going to melt. That's the trouble playing a Slash, is that you have to still be tactful and when to use that speed, but obviously the speed is a massive enabler in this type of game where you can get away with absolute murder in some of your plays. Don't think RAISY's going to let him do that to the same degree, but we haven't seen Slash in such a while. I'm just excited to see it, full stop.
But if we're talking about predictions, and I want to know what chat thinks, and I think I'm going to keep an eye on the other monitor and see what chat says, because even if we don't have predictions right now, I just want to see what the people are saying, because I think this is very hard to call. RAISY is on an extremely comfortable champion. Sorlag is a lot more universal to the maps. No doubt k1llsen keeps his Slash in practice, otherwise he wouldn't pick it competitively. However, it's impossible to gauge. It's so hard to make a prediction for that. I really don't know.
Well, in the absence of predictions then, for Ketchup's sake, let's chat. Let's put your prediction in there. Who's going to win and what score? Let's see it. see if he can match up to us.
I'm going to bring up my other monitor and keep an eye on chat room. There's a lot of people saying they want k1llsen to win. It's a slightly different story, though.
That's who
has more fans is a different prediction. Although these are both absolute fan favorites for good reason. And starting things off now, k1llsen. Again, going in with a starting shotgun. He's prepared to, off the spawn, have to throw down, I think.
Trying to hit RAISY, playing again around the audio keys, but look how fast RAISY can play Sorlag. And you say k1llsen might have one of the best slashes in the world. Well, you could say the same thing for RAISY on the Sorlag.
It looks to me like chat room's a bit more focused on the matchup at hand than the players. A lot of people say that they think Slash might be a bit of a risk here. It is going to be light versus heavy anyway, and we know what Sorlag can do. You said it yourself at the start. But we'll see what happens, because already a minute on the board and can't really call much. The equipment is universal. Everyone's got that unholy trinity. Respectable stack. And RAISY just listening out for when that Mega gets taken. Mega's been taken, and now heavy, next objective. Ooh. But this game of information, they're right on top of each other.
RAISY's delaying this heavy as well. k1llsen will hear it if he stays in this position, and
Ooh.
Big drop down. k1llsen doesn't know the item hasn't been taken though. It's a really smart play by RAISY, and again, asserting dominance there. The alpha play to delay it by that much. Now will work his way over to the Mega, but here he comes, rocket jumping through a doorway. The spit connects as well, and that will tick k1llsen down and win himself a Mega. So RAISY trying to abuse the heavy stacks.
And taking so much damage in the process. He went into that knowing how much he was going to take, but maybe not so much k1llsen holding the angle, ready and waiting, because that's exactly what happened. RAISY won himself a Mega, but he had to give up a heavy. k1llsen taking no damage means that the chase is on. The rockets are fantastic, but not enough to finish it. k1llsen gets that first frag, but there's still 3 seconds until Mega. So k1llsen's doing the right thing. He's not going to try and take this.
No, I mean, the health bubbles were the same impact as a Mega at this point, but beyond denying for RAISY. But you also see the vulnerability of Slash there. Slightly poor execution from k1llsen, and he nearly went down despite having the massive stack advantage. So he has to still be careful in these pushes, but nice play to take the initiative.
Oh, the rail!
Oh no.
Now, unfortunately, what that rail also did was slightly knock k1llsen off course, right? So he had to take a little bit of extra time. And it meant there was no escape. RAISY somehow hitting unreal damage, and k1llsen doing what he could. Oh, bad trade. k1llsen's in trouble here.
Yeah, really bad.
Still railable.
But he has to take that initiative. He can't afford to let RAISY get away. He needs to try and peek, but that was just an amazing response by RAISY. k1llsen's got a light, but he's going to beat here. He's only got a rail, though. He's trying to skirt himself away, but RAISY, he's weak himself.
That defensive plasma trail was delicious. It wasn't enough to get the frag. It kept him alive, though. k1llsen going in with the rail, knowing the trail's good to go. That was a brave choice. RAISY misses the shot. Let's just not forget that day one of heavy versus light. Light is harder to hit. That could be an advantage, even though RAISY, I mean, he knows a thing or two about hitting these out of this world shots. Ooh, there's the shot to open up.
k1llsen is just on the retreat at this point. Really wants to do any sort of damage onto the items, but every single time he's getting spotted out here. And RAISY once again is coming in aggressively. k1llsen misses the rail, swats the rocket. Good choice. He's so low. They're both low. And somehow, neither one of these players has died from the last 3 engagements, despite both getting away with virtually nothing. It's RAISY, though, that is rotating the items. It feels like a matter of time before he gets a frag.
I am loving the choice of weapon from k1llsen. Very much so. The defensive LG. You know you're fighting a Sorlag. She's going to come jumping around a corner. Just gives you a chance to somewhat stop the push, and that rocket.
Dirty. He's coming in again. He's not learning his lesson, Ketchup.
No,
he's just not learning.
There's a level of, it almost looks like arrogance at this point, pushing in, and he's doing it again! RAISY, be careful, mate! Because k1llsen is wise to your plans. And RAISY almost died for a 4th time in a row, I'm sure.
I mean, there's an element of how the fudge did that happen. how is k1llsen getting away with this? But there's also an element of this is also k1llsen. Expect that shit to happen. So I don't. It's neither here nor there. I think it's probably the right choice by RAISY, but it's also k1llsen.
Now he is going to take a significant amount of damage, not enough in return. In theory, I say, to pressure as the spawn hits, but RAISY able to land that opening rocket certainly might give him a little bit of wiggle room, but he is significantly behind now. So those kind of plays, all of that happened in less than a minute, but that could be all it takes to shape this entire map now, as k1llsen is once more in position, lands tons of damage, none that RAISY is able to return fire on, and RAISY has to disengage and give up the heavy. That is not what he wanted to do.
Yeah, and he also is just in a point now where even if he gets back control, he has to chase a slash. I mean, this feels like GG.
I need to think about how and why that 3 frag spree happened, where RAISY goes down and just rushes every time. I mean, it's like you said, like RAISY, he's the kind of player that is able to make that work, but that was a huge risk considering this is the end of the series, and now look what's happening.
The game. Yeah, it's in the game, mate. It's over. Like, wow, that one, the frag that did it was that one LG fight over by the light armor. Somehow k1llsen won that with no items. He was left low, and RAISY tried to finish the job, and it cost him 3 frags.
RAISY ran out of LG ammo in that fight. He swapped to the regular shotgun and wasn't able to do it. I mean, he's not got any other weapons. It probably did it automatically, to be honest, but that is unfortunate. And RAISY, this has been a rather drastic turn. You often do not see kind of disasters happen to RAISY in a match, but I do think this is one of those rare cases. And k1llsen playing so well defensively. Oh, happy to just sit around a corner, get a perfect gauge on when RAISY's going to go round. The LG has been absolutely sublime. And not much else to say about it. RAISY was too aggressive, too eager to refrag, and it cost him the map today.
Yeah, you have to be respectful. Like, even with a bigger stack, it's obviously not as big as it used to be. You're still going up against someone that can just hit everything on a dime, and that's exactly what k1llsen did. Again, like I said, I think it was probably the right choice by RAISY. Obviously, in context, it wasn't, but he felt he had the initiative to finish the frag, and k1llsen gloating at this point.
They trade. That's only going to favor k1llsen now. We'll keep that intensity. Intensity. I told you I can't talk today. My brain is half melted.
I'm dying to hay fever and heat at this point. I can barely open my eyes.
But what we can focus on right now is the remaining 2 minutes of k1llsen continuing to push this lead. This map was over long ago, it seems. And this is not normally the kind of thing that happens to RAISY. It has to be said. This was a close exchange up until that LG fight that k1llsen somehow pulled off. RAISY pushes forward to try and refrag, gets more than he bargained for, and then it repeats twice. And after that, hard to say. k1llsen is going to feel damn good about how this map went. I can tell you that.
Yeah, you saw the celebration earlier already. He knew how much this map meant. It's also a validation piece, you know, playing a slash again, particularly against the Sorlag. And I think we'll see this more now with the heavy stack nerf. Yep. Makes these encounters a little bit more viable. We saw it here. There was a time and a place that if RAISY had a slightly bigger stack, he probably would have got one of those frags. And now he doesn't. It makes that tactic just a little bit more risky.
Some nice LG to finish the job, but like I said, this is just a victory lap for k1llsen and, you know, potential highlight reel frags for RAISY. There's nothing else. And I know that's not what RAISY wants. He wants the victory. RAISY is a perfectionist who always strives for #1. So many second places in these kind of major tournaments where, like you said, if Rafa was not around in some of these tournaments, then RAISY would have championships under his belt. And that's the kind of caliber of player he is, which is why it is such an impressive victory for k1llsen, and why we all knew this may as well have been a third featured matchup of the day. This was a clash of titans, and k1llsen comes out on top with the 2-1 in a phenomenal showing, and a big congratulations. No doubt he feels good right now.
So he should, I think. the chat were doubting, at least a lot of the chat I saw were doubting, expecting a RAISY victory, and it could have gone a completely different way. Any one of those frags went in RAISY's favor, but they didn't. And k1llsen executed there on out perfectly, and RAISY was left just stunned, wondering what had hit him. So amazing display with the light champions on Nyx and Slash. Full credit to k1llsen, but all in all, that was an incredible series.
I love watching a player that can take lights as consistently as he can and make them look like they are not a gigantic risk. I think at most levels of play, lights are always just a humongous risk into the reward of just winning the match, right? At this level of play where everyone is so good, where accuracy isn't as much of a problem, because even if they're hard to hit, these players will hit those shots. They will hit those rails. They will get that LG. So it's an even bigger risk still. Yet here comes k1llsen able to have a world-class showing with both Nyx and Slash in the same day against RAISY, no less. This was a good week for the German.
100%, couldn't agree more. I mean, the potential that you can play on these lights is just so much higher. That's the nature of them. And that's why if you can execute at that level and the strategy is on point, everything else is perfect, they will look broken because these players can make them look broken. Obviously, the safer bet is often with the heavies and the mediums, but if you can play at this level like k1llsen does, you can see why these people are so iconic on these champions, because no one else has the capability to do what these guys do.
I thoroughly enjoyed that. My favorite series of the day, without question, and I don't think I'm alone there. And always excited to see what both these players can bring out. As I've said earlier today, we are so close to the remaining weeks and the Stage 3 finals. QuakeCon at home. Not far away now until we get to jump into the online World Championships. Now, thank you so much for joining us so far. We're going to take a break and start our next series for the day. No rest for the wicked. We'll see you soon.